Hi, Bertie. Thanks for joining me.
No, thanks for having me. How's it going?
Yeah, very good, very good. It's good to chat to you again because I think the last time we spoke was when you were on your epic adventures, and now we're back with animals up close. So, for people who haven't already binge watched the whole thing, what can you tell us about it?
On Epic Adventures, we went for these huge wildlife gatherings, amazing animal behavior, which we still go for in Animals Up Close, and put our adventure alongside that, our struggles to find the animals alongside the animals' struggles. We really focused in Animals Up Close on, rather than following a whole species, on following an individual animal or an individual animal family. And we found that by doing that, it's just so engaging because, you really get just a tiny insight into how challenging and exciting and dramatic an individual animal's life is. So as an example, for the opening episode of the series, which is my favorite, the Patagonia puma episode, we didn't just go to find any puma. We went looking for one particular puma, and she was called Petaka. And we went looking for her because I first met her when she was a cub 4 years ago. So 4 years on, wanted to see how she was doing. And not only has she transformed from this cute little ball of fluff into a just amazingly powerful adult, she also now has two cubs of her own. So she took us on this crazy emotional and physical roller coaster while we were filming her.
That's amazing. And that episode actually has already been a big hit with our readers. And one thing I was wondering about it is personally, I've never piloted a drone, but I can only imagine it gets a little bit trickier when you're doing it in the middle of the night. So how did you and the team find that?
Yeah. So yeah, we were trying to film the interaction between the pumas and these specially bred shepherd dogs that were looking after the sheep, so that the farmers, traditionally had resorted to shooting the pumas. Now they've got these guardian dogs as a replacement, which keeps the sheep safe, and as a result, the pumas safe. So yeah, that interaction happens at night. So filming that, more normal cameras don't work in the dark. So we were using thermal imaging cameras. And yeah, my colleague Sam was on a ground-based thermal imaging camera, and then I was on a thermal imaging drone. And flying a drone at night is tough because you lose all of your visual references that you normally have, where the mountains are, where the trees are, all the things that you don't want to hit. So I found what really helped was spending time in that spot during the day, so you kind of have an idea of where stuff is. But yeah, you're just kind of going off the little lights on the drone, which actually I found we taped up, so that, or at least we taped the front ones up, so that it wasn't a thing that, animals might look up at in the sky. But yeah, challenging.
It definitely paid off because the footage was incredible. And I guess kind of overcomes one of my questions was going to be as the name of the series implies, you kind of get within stalking distance of some pretty dangerous animals. So how do you toe the line between getting good footage but then not entering the danger zone, so to speak?
Well, it's interesting. I think these animals are, of course, big predators are of course potentially dangerous. They're very powerful, capable animals. I mean, we film them just doing some unbelievable things to try and get their prey. That said, it's a common misconception that animals are out to try and get you. They're really not. They want generally nothing to do with you. You have to be very unlucky to have a totally unmotivated attack. The dangerous thing is people. It's when we enter their space. All these animals have personal space just like we do, and understandably they get cranky if you enter that personal space. So we're animal experts. We work with animal experts to make sure that all these encounters are on the animal's terms. And we're not trying to get close to these animals to get an adrenaline kick. We're trying to get close enough to them to tell their story, and show just how amazing they are. But yeah, it's always very calculated, and I think often, as I said, the most dangerous thing is people, or the physical environment. And actually, the most dangerous thing we did on this series was for the Galapagos episode. We're filming marine iguanas, which are like a little 3-4 foot long Godzilla, basically. And they are one of the only lizards in the world the only lizard in the world that regularly swims in the sea. And they're going for seaweed. And the best seaweed grows where the currents and the waves are biggest. And we wanted to go in those waves to show that they are like little pro surfers. They can duck dive under 10-foot waves. And, I've grown up surfing. I'm fairly confident in waves, but that's on the surface where you can see the waves coming. Underwater, it's a completely different story. And we had some really big waves, like the biggest wave of the day, just come out of nowhere, unprepared. And what had been a safe position underneath the waves in a little rocky cave, me and Jeff, the guy filming me, we suddenly found ourselves ripped out of this cave and flung in different directions. Fortunately, we made it out in the end, largely thanks to our expert dive guide Javier Mahawad, who we're very glad he was there that day.
I absolutely love the idea of surfing Godzilla. Like, that's the headline right there. So
Boom, do it, take it and run.
And that side of things, sort of, I think what people love so much about your wildlife filmmaking is that it shows it a kind of more authentic way, where at times it can be a little bit unpredictable and a little bit chaotic. And with that always seems to come really good stories. So do you have any other kind of behind the scenes tea you could share?
I mean, it's funny. We plan things as much as we can. We go out with a script, I guess, and then as you say, usually on day one, Mother Nature just goes gets it up. And I think the key thing that I love about the format of this series, because it's the wildlife alongside the behind the scenes, it kind of means like we let the animals take us on the journey, on the story. They write. It sounds cliche, but they write the script. And it just means because of the format, we can be very flexible. You spend a lot of the year, behind the camera doing, I guess, traditional kind of wildlife documentaries that are only wildlife, and they're great fun, very rewarding. But the amount of times you go with a very specific brief and you see something else, but it's not part of your brief, so you don't film it. I kind of love with this format, we could just film anything that happens. And so, as a result, it means just the story is really fun and unpredictable. And we always want the viewer to feel like they're, on their shoulder with us on the adventure. And that's what happens. Yeah, it's great fun.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that when you're watching along. And I'm sorry if this is an unfair question, but do you have a favorite episode from the series?
Well, I would say the Patagonia Puma episode, just because of the personal connection I had to Petaka. Like, it was so special seeing her. And generally speaking, when I'm filming action, that's challenging to film, you're trying to keep it in focus, keep it in frame. I generally, and most wildlife camera people do, we disconnect emotionally from our subject, because if you're caught up with that, it makes it, you just need to be focused on, keeping technically your shot good. But with Petaka, that just completely went out the window, because I just, I love her so much. She's so great. And having seen her, this little ball of fluff, and now this powerful super mum, I was, every time she got into trouble, trying to fight off big males that were trying to kill her cubs, or trying to take on guanaco, which are really dangerous prey item for her to go after. Heart was in my mouth the entire time. And it's a small miracle that the shots are, the animals are in the frame and in focus.
It's not just Bertie crying behind camera the whole time.
Exactly, just gently sobbing.
And in this series, you go to all sorts. There's the freezer cold, the hot, the high up. In any of those terrains, like, did you find them something that you had to overcome and learn to get used to, or do you just vibe with all kinds of peril?
There's the phrase, any idiot can be uncomfortable. So it is really important to make life as easy as possible. I'm very lucky that I get to work with really great people. Like with the Antarctic killer whales episode, we were operating in a very cold, windy place. And we were spending I don't know, sometimes 15, 16 hours a day, stood on the roof of a boat in a blizzard trying to find killer whales, because that's what it takes to find them. And yeah, you got to wear, there's no point suffering for no reason. We wear really good clothing. We had great support team who were just constantly funneling that tea to the top deck of the boat where we were spotting the killer whales from. But yeah, I think sometimes it's just also about being a bit stubborn or kind of the opposite, kind of zenning out. So in the case of our forest elephants episode, we're filming forest elephants in the Central African Republic, and they don't like people. And that means, as a result of a long history of poaching, they've been hunted for their tusks. They still are. It's very sad and terrible. And so they really understandably don't like people. So we didn't disturb the elephants, and so we weren't in danger. We lived off the forest floor. Our ropes team, Meg and Waldo, built this amazing tree house, 40 meters up a sapili tree, like right in the middle of the jungle. Now, as soon as you go off into the canopy in the jungle, you encounter sweat bees, and they don't sting you. They're like a little tiny fly, and they love salt. And so as you sweat, as we're climbing around the trees, they just go into any hole in your body, in your nose, your eyes, your ears. And it's just infuriating if we're sat there all day waiting for the elephants to do stuff, and you've just, and there's no point fighting it. You've just got to zen out and just be like, this will all be over soon. Try and enjoy the view. So a bit of both. Sometimes you just got to be stubborn and tough it out. Sometimes you got to zen out. And sometimes you've just got to be a bit smart, so you don't actually need to suffer.
You've got so much experience with wildlife filmmaking that by this point, you can almost think that there's nothing left to learn. But do you find that every time you make one of these shows, new things come up?
In wildlife film, every day is a school day. There is so much to learn from the animals, the landscape, the people. I mean, yeah, the great thing about filming wildlife is, as well as getting to hang out with cool animals, you get to hang out with cool people. And yeah, there is just it's a bit like with science. Every time you get an answer to a question, you get 10 more questions. And so yeah, I'm definitely still trying to answer those 10 questions.
Amazing. And what are you most excited about now that Animals Up Close is finally going to be out in the wild?
It was such a crazy year of filming. We did 219 days in 1 year, filming for the 6 episodes. And so we didn't really get a huge amount of chance to like catch our breath and I think really appreciate just how crazy some of the animal encounters were. I mean, generally speaking, as a camera person, I'm hopping around between projects and shooting locations, and normally in a year I'll get like 1 or 2 moments that are just like, this is crazy. Whereas on Animals Up Close, literally every episode was, and so I think I'm just excited to see what people think, excited to hear what people think. And also, one of the things I'm most proud of with the series is that, in each episode, we set these amazing animals within a big environmental context, talk about and show the challenges they're facing, but most importantly, celebrate the good news, because I think there's a lot of doom and gloom in the world at the moment. And, our human relationship with the natural world is not good. That said, there is reason to be hopeful. There are people out there, doing amazing things to change that, and it was a real honor to be able to shine a light as well on the animals, on these people. So I hope people come away feeling inspired that there is hope, and there's many things that they can see in the series that they can do in wherever they live.
That's great to hear, and congratulations to you and the team on completing such a mammoth project. Hopefully now you can have a little bit of a break, and thank you so much for telling me about the series today.
Thanks very much for having me. Have a great rest of your day.